Hello everyone, this is part 2 to Juliet's Kawasaki's disease illness. And if you watch my first video, I left off where Juliet was being taken to the hospital after we made a trip to Walmart. After we left the doctor's office, we got some food and for a nice supply since I had nothing to eat. So we got to RGH Hospital. RGH stands for Rochester General Hospital. And we'd never been to that hospital before, so we had no idea what the doctors were like there or if it's a safe hospital. So I was kind of nervous. But we went through the emergency room for infants. And from there we waited in a waiting room to be seen in the hospital. And they took us back into a room where Juliet got weighed. And we got asked a lot of questions if she was allergic to anything, and they confirmed that the Tylenol was somehow damaging her liver, so she was not allowed to take any more Tylenol, because we had to stop that right away, so they switched her to Motrin. And from that one room, we went down the hall about 5 doors down. That's where Juliet and me and John were staying at for at least 3 to 4 hours. In that room, the nurse came in and hooked up the IV, which was very not powerful, but very emotional time for me and Juliet, because she was crying and I felt so bad for her, and I was an emotional wreck. And I had to keep holding on to Jonathan or standing behind him because I couldn't handle seeing Juliet cry when they were poking her with the needle to get the IV placed. So after the IV was hooked up, the doctor came in and he asked us a lot of questions about Juliet and when the fever started and if she had other symptoms. And he told us it was going to be a couple of hours before they can get a room ready for us up on the 7th level. And from that time, Jonathan had to get ready to go back home to go to work. I believe it's like around 9 o'clock at night. So by that point, I was still crying, dry tears, because I was crying that whole afternoon. But I was still hurting. And Jonathan was leaving me and Juliet. And I didn't like the idea of him leaving me or Juliet. But I knew he had to work to provide for our family. So he left, and not even 10 minutes after him leaving the room, he came back. And he told me that he couldn't leave me and Juliet there. And he called the doctor saying that if the doctor can write him a note to excuse him from work tomorrow, because we had no idea what was wrong with Juliet at the time. So the doctor did indeed write him a note to take him out of work. Then finally, the doctor came back to say they're ready to take us upstairs to a room that she stayed in for 10 days. Even though we had no idea it was going to be that long of a stay. And then we finally got upstairs, which was like close to 11 o'clock at night. And by then, Juliet and John and I were just wore out with barely no sleep. And they drew some more blood, and it was a rough night. The nurse kept coming in every few hours to check her heartbeats and draw blood and do all these tests. And it was just heartbreaking hearing her cry. And then the next morning, a team of doctors in learning, I don't know what they call them, came in and did all these tests on Juliet and went around in a group going through the symptoms she was having, trying to come to a conclusion on what she might have. And Dr. Garfunkel, who was the main doctor, and she was very nice, she said that what Juliet looked like had the Kawasaki's disease, and we had never heard that before. So we're like, what? What is it? Is it dangerous? And asking all these questions, but they said they weren't sure yet, so they couldn't confirm it. And later that night, we noticed Juliet's lips starting to chap, and her eyes started to get crusty. And under my pictures in Juliet hospital stays, you can see the pictures. And she just got worse from there. She swelled up like a balloon. It's still hard to talk about what she looked like. It's like one healthy baby girl when she was born, and totally the next. She was very sick and not knowing what caused it. Even though it was almost over a year ago since she's been sick with this illness, it still hurts like it was just yesterday. So forgive me if I'm crying. And so Friday morning came, and they confirmed that it was Kawasaki's disease. So they started her on treatment of a gluten. I can't really pronounce the word, so forgive me. And I'll try to, it's in my notes, and on a link I'll give you guys so you can read on more about the Kawasaki's disease. But this video is probably long as it is, so if you want to hear more, it'll be on the third video.